Chairman, Mr. Yang said that his place of residence is at 19 Nara.
19 Nara Street, South Forbes,
South
Makati
Forbes.
City. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
That is the same place where the OSAA, our security unit, the Senate security unit, served the subpoena on Mr. Yang. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Which I think the security guard denied.
就是说那个保安就是
你跟他说，我已经出国，就半年没有回到这个地方了。他可能以为我是没有回来住了，也没有授权给他书，他就这样打。他是一个普通员工，我不知道。
Mr. Chairman, according to Mr. Yang, because he has been out of the country for a period now, maybe the person thought that he may not be coming back. And that's why
我已经半年没来住了。
So he thought that probably Mr. Yang will no longer be coming back. So maybe that's why he said, and then because he is an ordinary staff or employee, that's why he gave that response.
Okay, I think at least that's clear that is his place of residence. How long has he been staying in the Philippines?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the second question?
How long has he been staying in the Philippines? I'll remove my mask na nga. Sige. All right. How long?
我在菲律宾有22年了。
Mr. Chair, to answer your question, number one, yes, that is his place of residence. Number two, he has been in the Philippines for 22 years.
22 years. Okay. My next question is, when, how, and why did you become involved with Parmalee?
给他说这个是给他说这个公司我没有参与，我也不知道有这个公司。
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang said that he doesn't know and he has no relation to Parmalee.
I would like to remind Mr. Yang that he's under oath, Mr. Interpreter.
Yeah, 他说呢，他要提醒你，你在那个有
说我是看到新闻才知道这个黄明利中这么多标。
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang is aware that he is under oath, and it is only through the news that he found out that of the existence of Parmalee Pharmaceutical.
So he maintains that he has nothing to do at all with Parmalee. Is that correct?
Senator Lacson, just one moment. I just want to call the attention of the official interpreter of the Blue Ribbon, Ms. Lingling Ponce. Ms. Lingling Ponce, please make sure that we're getting an accurate translation.
Yes.
Ms. Lingling Ponce, are you there?
Yeah, here.
Sorry?
Can you see me? My video is on. Yeah, here.
Okay. Are you giving us an accurate interpretation? Make sure that we're getting an accurate interpretation.
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Miss.
There's a variance, tell us. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
You may answer, Mr. Yang.
所以你回答就是刚才的问题，说你到底有没有任何跟这个 Parmalee 制药公司有什么关系吗？
你跟他说，他这个说的太宽了。跟他说，他们这个黄明利以前他们做这个生意，我不知道后面他来找我们后面他有来找我采购，我才帮他。我不知道他用这个公司，我只有他人来找我，我不知道他的公司。
Okay, Mr. Chairman, what Mr. Yang said is that initially he doesn't know of the existence or the whereabouts or anything about Parmalee Pharmaceutical. Later on, they did approach him for some assistance.
So it is not true that he has nothing to do or he had nothing to do with Parmalee.
Mr. Chairman, your question pertains to the corporation, corporation or on the operations? We just like to clarify on that part.
First, the corporation, Parmalee Pharmaceuticals.
就是
He knows-
你有
Yeah.
关于这个公司的成立注册有关系吗？
没有，我没有。
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we'd like to clarify that in terms of the registration or setup of Parmalee Parmalee Pharmaceutical, Mr. Yang has nothing to do with it.
That is correct. But does he have anything to do with the operations of Parmalee Pharmaceuticals at any point?
那关于他们的运营，你是否有插涉到吗？
没有，
In-
因为我不知道，我没有。
Mr. Chairman, in terms of operations, Mr. Yang has not been involved or he has no idea.
你们两个中国的什么不是？
Does he know Wang Chuyan,
你认识黄
the
祖
chairman
元
of
吗？
Parmalee?
给他说17年，他跟他爸爸来见过我一次，后面我就没有见过了。
During the 2017, he met Mr. Huang Zuyan together with his father, and after that, they have no any communications.
Does he know a certain Lincoln Ong?
你认识一个
你
Lincoln?
是
Yes, he know Mr. Lincoln Ong, Mr. Chairman.
How did he know Mr.
你
Lincoln
怎
Ong?
么认识 Lincoln Ong?
他以前他们亲戚也跟我说，就是这样联系了。
Before, Mr. Yang knows the relative of Mr. Lincoln Ong. That's why he got to know him.
Nakakatawa.
Did he have any business dealings with Mr. Lincoln Ong?
你有
Whether
没
in his
有
personal capacity or in his capacity as one of the incorporators of Parmalee Pharmaceuticals?
Okay, 你有没有跟林立做过生意，特别是在这个 Parmalee 制药公司
没有，
？Mr. Chairman, no.
No business dealings with Mr. Lincoln Ong?
你有没有跟 Lincoln Ong 有任何？Mr. Chairman, can you just be more can you just repeat the question?
Did he have any business dealings with Mr. Lincoln Ong, whether in his personal capacity or as a stockholder or incorporator of Parmalee Pharmaceuticals?
OK， 你有没有跟林立这个林肯任何的生意来往交易，就在这个 Parmalee Pharmaceutical 公
没
司
有。你是说交易是什么时候？是说什么时候？
？Okay, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang would like to ask in terms of what specific period you were pertaining to.
In the supply of PPEs, medical supplies like face masks, shields, etc., etc., in relation to the transaction dealings of Parmalee with the PSDBM, to be
Okay.
more specific.
So, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, your question is if he has any dealing or anything to do with the transactions pertaining to PSDBM and Parmalee Pharmaceutical.
Yeah, PPEs,
For
supply of
PPEs,
PPEs,
supply of
surgical
PPE.
masks, face shields, face masks.
OK， 你在这个有没有跟那个预算部和 Parmalee 这边呢有没有任何关系？就是干涉到你提供材料像资料物料像这些口罩、面罩、防护衣。
你给他解释哦。对于华明利去竞标，我从来没有不知道，也没有参与过。你先给他解释。
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang would like to clarify to say that when Parmalee did get their contracts, he has nothing to do with any of those contracts or awards.
第二就是后面他们以前面做生意不知道，后面有一个 PP 林坤有来找跟我帮忙，我有给他介绍中国的朋友，给他们有这个资源，有这个能力也帮他们。
Okay.
我只有
Then
介绍
eventually, Mr. Lincoln did approach Mr. Yang, and then he helped Mr. Yang introduce friends to Mr. Lincoln who could help them with their supplies.
That is correct. That's the point I was trying to point out, Mr. Chairman, that Mr. Micheal Yang was the one who acted as a go-between or middleman between Lincoln Ong or Parmalee Pharmaceuticals and the suppliers from China. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Chair, your question again, that Lincoln and
No. Mr. Micheal Yang acted as a middleman
okay,你是作为
between
中间人嘛？
Parmalee Pharmaceuticals through Mr. Lincoln Ong and the Chinese suppliers of the medical supplies in relation to the
确立
procurement.
做他那个林立的那个 Pharmalee 制药公司和这个供应商这些工厂的中间人嘛。
你跟他说，我就介绍他们自己讲。
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang said that he only introduced and let them discuss things on their own.
So that was his only role. He introduced the suppliers to Mr.
你只
Lincoln
有
Ong,
这个
and
角
then he had
色，
nothing to do with the supplies anymore.
所以你只有这个角色，就是介绍他们，然后
是
就没
帮忙他
有再做别的。
们介绍中国朋友，跟他们去自己买卖。
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang said that he only introduced them and then they discuss things on their own.
And he stopped all his participation.
I'm sorry, come again, Mr.
And he
Chairman.
stopped all his participation
然后你就
in the dealings between the Chinese suppliers of the medical supplies that I mentioned and Mr. Lincoln Ong.
所以自从
He
你就
just left
停
them
了
on their own.
然后没有再参与吗？
不要说，我就介绍后面他们有拿，我看到他们拿货自己去哪里买有的，我就不知道了，因为我不信，我只有给他介绍一部分。
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Yang said that he only introduced as to where or who they close their dealings. He's not he does not know who or where did he actually purchase those stocks.
And he never guaranteed
你没有当
with his Chinese suppliers the
这些供应商
credibility or the ability of Mr. Lincoln Ong to pay them.
你没有担保过，
没有，我只有给他们介绍朋友，他们自己去谈，可能朋友有帮他们奠基，还是帮他们出钱，我不知，他们去谈的。
所以你说你只有帮他们介绍，
对对，介绍。
然后呢？
就是你介绍他们自己去谈去买嘛。
Okay, so Mr. Yang only introduced and then they negotiated on their own. And
厂家嘛，朋友。
yeah, and then probably the first initially introduced friends introduced some other friends for them to negotiate all of their dealings.
How many suppliers did he introduce to Mr. Ong?
你介绍了几个供应商呢？
有4个嘛，4个。
Around 4 suppliers, Mr. Chairman.
These are individuals or these are companies in
这是
China?
个人吗？或者是公
这个我
是公司？
是介绍朋友，这些有能力，这些人在可能去介绍找这些厂家，还是自己去买货给他，我不知，就我介绍的。
Okay, so he introduced friends, individuals, and then probably these people would have introduced some other friends or companies directly to them.
That's it. That's his participation. Introduced and then left them alone.
所以你的角色就是介绍，然后就让他们自己谈谈。
对，他们就去。
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Is Mr. Ong around? Mr. Lincoln Ong?
Yes po, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Nandito po ako.
Lincoln, narinig mo lahat yung sinabi ni Mr. Yang.
Yes po, yes po.
Okay.
Opo.
Ano masasabi mo doon sa kanyang pahayag na ang role lang niya, inintroduce ka niya doon sa 4 na Chinese suppliers, wala na siyang kinalaman at all. Ikaw na lahat ang nakipag-deal, ikaw nakipag-transact, ikaw ang nag-usap na lang kayo kung paano susuplayan yung Parmalee Pharmaceuticals na mga face masks, face shields, PPEs, and other items. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, totoo po yun na may pinapakilala po si Mr. Micheal Yang ng mga suppliers. at yung mga friends na tumulong para dito sa PPE project. Totoo po yun.
Yun lang ang role niya. Hindi na siya nakialam pagkatapos ka maipakilala sa mga suppliers.
I'm not privy to their what's their discussion pero may pinapakilala talaga siya. Kung ano yung discussion nila, hindi ko na alam.
Hindi maliwanag, ano? Okay. Ang sabi ni Mr. Yang, ang role niya lang, ipinakilala sa iyo yung mga tao sa China na nakakilala niya. Pagkatapos wala na siya kinalaman, ikaw na lahat na nakipag-deal doon sa mga suppliers. Is that true?
Mr. Chair, nakikipag-usap talaga kami sa mga supplier na pinakilala niya. Yes po.
Hindi, ang tinatanong ko, wala na ba siyang kinalaman? Umalis na siya, kayo na lang ang nagtuloy-tuloy ng usap at hindi na nakialam si Mr. Yang.
Hindi ko, well, paano po
Yung
hindi
diretsong
nakialam?
sagot lang, Mr. Lincoln.
Sige po, Mr. Chairman. Ano po ulit yung tanong niyo para maintindihan ko na maayos at isagot ko na
Ganito
maayos?
ang flow, no? Sabi ni Mr. Yang, ang papel lang niya, ipinakilala ka sa 4 na suppliers from China.
Opo.
At wala na siyang ginawang iba pa. Ikaw na lahat ang nagpatuloy kung paano makipagtransaksyon, kung paano tumanggap ng supplies at makipag-deal do sa mga suppliers na sinasabi niya, ipinakilala lamang sa iyo.
In addition to that, Mr. Chair, he also guarantees for us. Nagka-guarantee sila para sa amin. Kasi totoo po yung analysis ni Mr. Chairman na medyo challenging talaga pagdating sa financial.
Anong klaseng guarantee? Ang ginagarantiyahan niya na makakabayad ka?
Yes po.
Magkano
Excuse me,
nailabas mo ng
Mr.
cash?
Lincoln, can you take out your mask para maintindihan ka namin maigi?
Mr. Chair, positive po ako sa COVID. Tapos po may mga tao din po sa bahay. Dito po ako sa sala.
It's
Nag-iisa ka
okay.
sa kwarto ngayon? Nag-iisa ka sa kwarto?
Hindi po. Nandito po ako sa sala namin kasi nandito po yung mga computer at yung iPad.
Wala kang kasama dyan?
Meron po may baby po ako at mga tao. And then this is medyo open space din. So
Sige, then speak a little louder, okay?
Opo, yes, Mr. Chair, yes po.
Okay, Mr. Ong.
Sorry sa introduction. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dahil sinabi mo na wala nang kinalaman si Mr. Yang kung hindi maggarantya, paano mo binabayaran yung mga Chinese suppliers? LC, money transfer, or cash? Paano mo binayaran sila? Kasi malaking halaga ito eh.
Yes po, Mr. Chair. May mga portion na kami na nagdiretso nagbayad sa mga suppliers dahil meron po naman kami mga pondo sa amin. At syempre, mga savings ng mga our incorporators, our partners. And then there are certain items that we need we don't have enough funds to settle. So Mr. Micheal Yang guarantees for us.
So hindi totoo na pinakilala ka lang at tapos na. Tuloy-tuloy ang kanyang participation by way of continuously guaranteeing sa mga suppliers na babayaran sila. Parang utang. Sabihin na natin
Mr.
na
Chairman,
credit.
I think medyo may na-miss si interpreter kanina na I think Mr. Micheal Yang also mentioned that he guaranteed for us.
No. Guarantee meaning salita lamang. Laway lang na
Opo.
ito si Mr. Ong, kaya kayong bayaran ito. Yun lang. Ikaw lahat ang
Yes po.
nagbabayad. Ang tanong ko sa iyo, how did you pay the suppliers? Money transfer, LC?
Yung mga ibang supplier namin talaga nagta-transfer talaga kami. Wala pa naman pong LC nung time na yan. Tapos may mga ibang supplier na hindi namin kayang bayaran. Humingi na po kami ng tulong kay Mr. Micheal Yang, which he guaranteed with the supplier na pag nakatanggap po kami ng bayad from the government, and then that's the time we pay na lang.
There you go. So, medyo laway ang puhunan. Hintay muna kayo makasingil sa gobyerno at hindi naman kayo makakasingil sa gobyerno kung hindi kayo nakapag-supply. So, utang. At garantya ni Mr. Yang, kaya kayo pinayagan ng suppliers na tuloy-tuloy ang pag-supply sa inyo sa pamamagitan ng garantya ni Mr. Yang doon sa mga Chinese suppliers.
Parang tama po kayo. So, ganito po yung ganito, more or less
Sige.
ganito po yung logic. Yes po. Yes po.
Parang tama.
Lincoln, ganito, no?
Yes po.
Kasi
Yes.
mahirap na makipag-transact ka sa napakalaking halaga nang walang involved na mga letters of credit, no? Yung cash, parang garantiya lang ni Mr. Yang, babayaran kayo niyan, pautangin kayo ng sabihin na nating 100,000,000 o bilyon, maski i-convert mo ng renminbi, malaking halaga yon. So tama na yung garantiya ni Mr. Yang na babayaran kayo ni Mr. Lincoln Ong, supplyan nyo yan at sigurado makakasingil yan. Ganun ang gusto nyo palabasin, di ba?
Mr. Chairman, nung time na yun, actually we were expecting the project to be very quick eh. So, yun po. Humingi po talaga kami ng tulong kay Mr. Micheal Yang.
Hindi ko, parang ano eh, parang sari-sari store na o kaya parang transaksyon na bilihan ng sasakyan lang na o gagarantiyahan ko, babayaran ka nito, binigay na sa iyo sasakyan. Eh ito, bilyon ito eh. Ganun bang kadali yun? At saka government
It was-
transaction. Dapat kumpleto yung inyong papeles, mga import permit. Siyempre sa customs mahigpit, hingan kayo ng mga letters of credit, di ba? Eh sabi mo, walang letters of credit, wala kang maipapakita na LC. Ang sabi mo, kung hindi cash, eh garantiya lang ni Mr. Yang, eh dumarating yung supplies ninyo. Eh billion ito. Ganun kadali?
Mr. Chairman, hindi po talaga madali nung mga nangyari nung panahon na yon.
Hindi talaga madali. Kaya alam mo, Lincoln, hindi nga ka panipiniwala na ganun kadali ang transaksyon involving billions of pesos. Yun ang sinasabi ko. Nagarantya lang ni Mr. Yang, darating yung supply ninyo at sigurado raw kayo makakasingil. Ngayon, paano magagarantyahan ni Mr. Yang na makakasingil kayo kaagad para mabayaran yung mga sinusupply ng mga Chinese firms, yung 4 na Chinese firms?
Mr. Chair, I cannot answer for Mr. Micheal Yang.
Ayun nga, nagtuturuan na kayong dalawa ngayon. Sabi ni Mr. Yang, ikaw ang diretsong nakipagtransaksyon doon sa mga Chinese firms at siya lang ang nagpakilala. Ngayon, hindi ka privy sa pag-uusap ni Micheal Yang doon sa mga Chinese suppliers. Ang sinasabi naman ni Mr. Yang, hindi siya privy sa pakipag-usap mo sa mga Chinese suppliers. Now, which is the truth?
The truth is, Mr. Chairman, the truth is talaga, Mr. Chairman, tumulong talaga po si Mr. Micheal Yang. And then, I think he's really connected and in China. Tapos po, meron naman po kaming NOAA nung time na yan. So I think it's also a good proof and boost of confidence to these suppliers.
Yeah, I know that. But this is a government transaction. Hindi ito yung bilihan. Nakita kayo sa isang lugar, sa isang restaurant, pinakilala sa yung supplier at naniwala yung supplier, sinupplyan ka ng kung ano man yung pinag-uusapan yung bilihan. This involves billions of pesos. Sabi ko nga, hindi ganun kasimple na isang garantya pagbibigyan ka ng suppliers. Ang sabi ni Mr. Yang, hindi niya na alam kung paano kayo nag-usap ng suppliers. Ang sinasabi mo ngayon, hindi mo na alam kung paano nakipag-usap si Mr. Yang sa mga suppliers. Ang tanong ko, alin ang totoo sa dalawa?
Totoo po yun na pagdating sa negotiation ng mga delivery at pricing, kami na po talaga ni supplier nagka-finalize. Totoo po yun. At inaamin ko rin po na pagdating sa mga bayaran, we also need Mr. Micheal Yang's guarantee.
Parang paniwalaan yan, Lincoln, ano? Kasi napakalaking halaga nito. At government transaction pa ito para isimplify nyo ng ganon ang inyong pakipag-usap. So wala kayong LC?
Ano po? LC po?
Kayong
Wala
LC,
po.
Walang gamit na LC?
Wala po.
Money
Wala po
transfer?
LC po.
Money transfer?
Meron po.
How? How did you make the money transfer? Bank to bank?
Pagdating po sa in our our internal operation, pagka nagre-remit po kami sa mga supplier, we use telex, yung maayos po na ano na transaction.
Do you have documents to show your proof of payment do sa mga suppliers?
We have all those document as long as it's wala naman pong rights or may violate sa amin, we are more than willing to cooperate.
Okay. How much in total did you pay the 4 suppliers? Doon sa mga dumating yung na-procure ninyo and supplied to the PSDBM, magkano yung binayaran nyo sa mga suppliers?
Sir, Mr. Chairman, wala po kasi sa amin yung mga, sa akin po, wala po talaga sa akin ng record. I think I have to access our accounting records.
No, but ikaw nakipag-usap sa mga suppliers, may idea ka kung magkano yung presyo na binayaran mo doon, di ba?
Mr. Chairman, kasi medyo ano na po yun trade secret na po yun parang hindi po kaming komportable na ibulgar na po sa publiko.
Just as an intervention, Senator Lacson.
Go ahead, with the permission of Senator Lacson.
Yes, sir, these are public funds. These are subject to audit by the COA. And you better, and even if you do not testify, COA has the power to inquire. Pwede pong tanungin, tingnan ang records ng Farmally kung magkano binayad nyo sa inyong mga supplier. Lalo na po, kanina may testimony rito, na mukhang wala naman kayong pera, paano nyo na-erase yung 7 billion na pambayad ninyo? So pwede pong tingnan yan ng COA dahil transaction, dahil pera ng taong bayan yan. Pwede pong nasa kapangyarihan ng COA na tingnan. So sabihin mo na kung ano ang totoo. Dahil pwede ma-check po yan.
Mr. Chair, thank you po sa enlightenment. Definitely makikipag-cooperate kami sa mga ahensya pagdating sa mga ganitong investigation. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Kaya nga, di sabihin mo na, makikipag-cooperate, tinatanong ka na, hindi mo naman sinasagot.
Mr. Chair, I myself alone cannot answer that question kasi kumpanya po kami, allow us to have a meeting on it, tapos pag-usapan namin, and then we seek guidance with our accountants and lawyer, and then definitely, pagka kinakailangan namin makipag-cooperate sa COA, gagawin po namin yun.
Okay, Mr. Lincoln Ong, with the permission
Yes, po,
of
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
Chinese talaga lahat, no?
Go ahead,
Puro
please.
verbal ba usapan niya? Did you have any document kung ano yung, meron kayong parang joint venture agreement with Mr. Yang?
We do have agreement po.
Yes. Do you have a copy of that agreement?
I don't have it with me, Mr. Chairman.
What kind of agreement do you have with Mr. Yang?
Hindi ko po talaga maalala nung mga specific content niya, Mr. Chairman. But sana po maintindihan nyo na kami po sa community namin, minsan, totoo po yun. Pagka minsan may mga transaction kami na minsan verbal talaga. Negosyante lang po.
But in this particular case, yung supplies ng mga PPEs, sinabi mo, meron kayong pinirmahan na agreement with Mr. Yang. Ang tanong ko, anong klaseng agreement? Anong klase yung pinirmahan yung dokumento? Anong form? Is it a joint venture agreement? Is it a contract?
Mr. Chair,
Can you please wait for the question to be formulated before you answer?
my apologies, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, what document did you have or did you sign with Mr. Yang? In so far as the supplies of the materials.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not really privy or hindi ko talaga ma-recall ngayon kung ano yung content, but we do have kasulatan po.
Very important document, hindi mo matandaan kung anong form, joint venture ba, contract ba, hindi mo man lang maalala kung ano yon.
Meron po talaga nun.
Anong klase nga?
Mr. Chair, hindi ako kasi baka po mali yung mga masabi ko ngayon, tapos yung iba naman yung nakita ko.
Can you produce that?
Hanapin ko po, sir. Yes po, yes po.
Mr. Yang
Yes po.
signed that document, I suppose, correct? As well as you did sign the same document. I have a question. You haven't answered. Both Mr. Yang and you signed that document which you said is in your possession, di ba? You cannot just recall kung ano yung pinirmahan nyo, but you did sign on the same piece of paper, on the same document.
Yes po, yes po.
Can you produce that and submit that to the committee?
Hanapin ko po, sir. Hanapin ko po, and then definitely comply kami sa kung kailangan talaga.
Okay.
So when you were dealing with the Chinese suppliers, you were traveling to China?
Ay, hindi po. Hindi po.
Or who was traveling to China to deal with them?
Mr. Chair, kasi nung time na yan, that was pandemic. Maraming
know.
mga bansa na mga
So-
borders, mga sarado po.
Okay. So how did Mr. Yang introduce you to the Chinese suppliers? They came here, you went there by phone?
Puro by phone lang po, Mr. Chair. Tapos may mga tao po naman kami sa China.
Telepono lang, tinawagan ka ni Mr. Yang, pinakausap sa iyo yung Chinese supplier, all four of them, maybe one after the other, and that's it.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair. Yes po.
Okay. So, meron ka bang nilabas na cash?
Dito po sa site namin, sa
Yes.
site po namin ng Farmally.
Sa Farmally. Oh.
Yes po, yes po, yes po.
Magkano?
Estimate, how much cash did you, for this whole transaction, how much cash did you shell out? Whether it's advance payment, partial payment, how much?
Mr. Chair, I really have to refer it to our other partners for that. Kasi I really don't have to record it with me now.
Sinong partners ang pwedeng sumagot? Nandyan lahat yung partners mo eh. Kindly mention
Mr.
the
Huang,
name.
do you think you can access any document, Mr. Chair?
Who are you referring to? Mr. Wang.
Mr. Huang,
Okay, Mr. Wang.
Mr. Huang.
Mr.
Chair,
Wang.
Mr. Huang, Mr. Chair, baka pwedeng makahingi po ng opportunity na para makapag opening statement po si Mr. Huang Suyan.
No. I'm asking him a question and you referred me to him. You referred the committee to Mr. Wang para sagutin yung tinatanong ko.
My apologies po.
How did you transact with or deal with the 4 Chinese suppliers? Kasi sabi mo, ni-refer ka ni Mr. Yang. So how? Did you go to China? Did they come here? Sabi mo, by telepono lang. Ngayon, ang sagot mo, si Mr. Wang naman ang pwede sumagot nun. How? So I'm asking Mr. Wang. And now you're saying, mag-opening statement si Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So how did you transact with the Chinese suppliers? The first time you were introduced by Mr. Yang.
I mean, to clarify one thing, I wish to state on record that Mr. Yang and I have not been in direct contact for since 2017 March. After that, after he introduced for my previous employer to invest in the companies, we stopped contacting each other. As for the question regarding how do we contact with the Chinese suppliers, I think most of the communications were done through WeChat. They will send us samples, they will send us pictures, and we'll relay to them our requirements of the amount, and then we will ask them for the supposed delivery dates and quantities they can match to that schedule, so that we can better prepare for our proposals.
So we're now back to Mr. Ong. Because
Yes po,
as you mentioned, after the March 2017 encounter with Mr. Yang in Davao, you never had the chance to see him again or to talk to him again. So we're